We pay our respect to their elders, past, present and future emerging leaders. We extend our respect to other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who live in the Yass Valley local government area. Let us be still and remember the presence of God as we commence our meeting together. Let us together pray for guidance and help. Almighty God, we ask your blessing upon this council, direct our deliberations to the children of Australia and the people of Yass Valley. Amen. Thank you, councillors. We have one apology from Councillor Butler. Councillor Turner, we have seconder, Councillor Butler. Thank you, councillors. I put the motion, all those in favour, those against, declare the motion carried. Declarations of pecuniary interest or special disclosures.
I've got one, Mr. Mayor, 9.5. I've got land adjoining these wind towers, bingo, and I've got a bit of money out of them.
Well done.
To you, Mr. Mayor, in relation to 6.5, the boarding house one, as the crow flies, I live within about 50 metres of the proposed site. I don't share a border at all. I've got another allotment next to me, and I've got the new ambulance centre as well there. So I'm just saying that I live fairly close to that site, but I don't have I don't think it's going to affect my decision on it. I actually have a boarding house next to me on the other side.
Thank you, Councillor Chapman. We go on to the confirmation of the minutes of the meeting held on the 24th of August. I would move the adoption of the minutes. Councillor Burgess, have a second. Councillor Rath. Put the motion, all those in favour? Those against, declare the motion carried. Mayoral minute, nil, report to council. 6.1, election of mayor and deputy mayor. No villages there, so you go. I'm in the sun at the moment. First up, we'll go through the nominations. At this stage, I have one nomination from for the mayor. That's Councillor McGrath, and that has been signed by as consenting to that nomination. I have two nominations for deputy mayor. Councillor Potham, and that has been duly signed as consenting to the nomination. And the second nomination for deputy mayor is Councillor Jones, and again, duly signed as consenting to the nomination. Is there any other nominations at this point in time with the necessary paperwork? Okay. We'll move to the mayoral election. With only one nomination, on that basis, I announce that duly elected Councillor McGrath is returned as mayor. Thanks very much, councillors. Now turn to the the deputy mayor. First of all, we need to draw out of the hat the order of. Before we do that, I need to ask councillors for the method of voting.
I'd like to move the recommendation,
which is ordinary ballot. Okay. So in an ordinary ballot, it's basically nominating your selection for the deputy mayor. So with that, first of all, we've got to draw out of our hat to, the cardboard box. Oh, sorry, we need a mover and a seconder for that method of voting.
Councillor Cameron, seconded Councillor Burgess.
Sorry, no,
Okay, Councillor Turner, Councillor Burgess.
Okay.
Okay,
Now we've got to draw from the box. Sure.
motion, should I? All those in favour? Once again, declare the motion carried. Excitement's a bit intense tonight.
Councillor Totham, at number one position. And I believe Councillor Jones is the two. So we can prepare some voting papers along those lines. Right.
Well, I also should say the Chief Executive Officer. Is there the opportunity for Councillor Poppers and myself to say a few words?
Absolutely. While we're preparing the papers, I'm happy to, perhaps the simplest way is to do it in the order that we selected them. So Councillor Popham, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Do I need to address Mr. Mayor, or is that not?
Can.
Mr. Mayor, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I believe in driving culture change, and I think we can do things a bit differently. And I think I feel like for a while we've just been doing the same old. And I believe we can communicate with the public more, and I think we can ask more questions. And I know for me, I'm fresh baked to council. I've got a lot of energy and a lot of ideas that I think I can bring to the table. I'm very engaged with our local community through my business and the other things that I do presently in the community. And I feel like this connection's given me understanding and a wealth of knowledge for many of the issues that are actually facing our community. And it would be an absolute privilege to serve as Deputy Mayor for the Yass Valley and for a better place for us all.
Thank you. Councillor Popham. Councillor Jones.
Fellow councillors, Mr. Mayor, it has been an absolute privilege to be Alan's 2IC, and that has offered me some fabulous opportunities to further those connections that I've established as a councillor for the last decade or more. Absolute privilege to step in whenever Alan's asked me, and I want to share with you a couple of highlights of speaking in favour of the wonderful business starting up of the Murray Bateman chocolate company. That was a terrible one for Alan to miss, and I was very privileged to step in. And also the Young Women of the Year, Rural Women of the Year event. Things that I will cherish that I got to be a part of. So thank you for putting your trust in me to step in whenever Alan couldn't. Also, I think Alan and I have been in lockstep on most issues. It's been an absolute privilege to help our community rally on a lot of things that needed some advocacy to state and federal. Our hospital had its issue of nurse to patient ratio resolved faster than a lot of other communities. I think a lot of that was to do with just the absolute support that was thrown behind that community campaign, and it was a privilege to walk with Alan on that issue. Also, the issue of the lack of support and commitment to the election commitments made on the water treatment plan. I think we really needed to be a strong voice and be a squeaky wheel on that, and that's another thing that has been something that Alan and I have been lockstep with. Absolute privilege to chair committees such as the Economic Development Committee and be a part of the Art Focus Group, and also be your representative on the Gin and Dairy Conservation Trust, which is a very interesting cross-border committee that I've been a part of both in the last council and this, and previously with the Traffic Committee, which I'm very grateful of the handover there to Councillor Cameron, and the Sustainable Communities Committee previously, and the wonderful time I will never forget one of my first committees was the Youth Council. And I think being a part of all of those committees over the years, it just enhances your role as Deputy Mayor, and something that I'm just very, very conscious of that was a privilege given to me to be chair and members of those committees. I just look for your support tonight and would like that support tonight to continue doing my role. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Jones.
Thank you, Con.
Councillors, you're just simply voting for your preference for deputy mayor. It's not preferential.
Should have written your name.
I'll put the name up.
All we do now is sometimes you go like. Good.
Okay, well, I'll go through the counting of the votes and I'll read them out as I go. The first vote I have is for councillor Potham. Next vote is for councillor Potham. Councillor Potham. Councillor Jones. Councillor Jones. Councillor Potham. Councillor Potham. And Councillor Jones. So that's 5 votes for councillor Potham and 3 votes for councillor Jones. On that basis, I declare councillor Potham duly elected to the position of deputy mayor. Yeah, I can hand it back to the mayor.
Sorry. Well, before we go on, can I congratulate you, councillor Potham, on your election as deputy mayor. I look forward to working with you the next 12 months. I'm confident that we can work together. I look forward to delegating lots of little jobs to you. As far as councillor Jones is concerned, I want to place on record my appreciation, councillor Jones, for all your support. I had to make, I think, 8 or 9 years between my last term council and this one. So I was paddling pretty, in fact, I was starting to bog down a couple of occasions when I sought your advice and you pointed me in the right direction. And I valued the corporate memory that you had. It certainly helped bring me up to speed. And I appreciated the fact that you were so willing to step up on occasions when I couldn't, some things that I couldn't attend. I was a bit jealous that when you went to the Australian Local Government Association convention over in Canberra and got to press the flesh for the Prime Minister. So I was a little bit resentful about that. You can't have everything. But look, I truly do appreciate the support you've shown over the last 2 years. Thanks very much. Okay. Moving right along. On the place again. The 6T, Link transmission line. There is a recommendation. Someone like to move the recommendation? That's okay, thank you, councillor.
No, I'm not moving it. I'm just asking you, sorry. Just asking a question. I thought that it had been amended, or there was a suggestion
through you, Mr Mayor, it doesn't get amended, the published recommendation doesn't get amended, you move an alternate motion.
Is the alternate,
There's an alternate motion.
sorry,
So the alternate motion is, under the first dot point there, is to oppose the above ground transmission in favour of underground power lines for the Humelink project to protect the interests of farmers, landowners, volunteers, firefighting service personnel and the environment. And the second part is basically what was in the recommendation, so seeking the inclusion of the following requirements in any approval that may issue for above ground transmission lines. So the first part is to oppose, and on the basis that you want it undergrounded. In the event that that's not supported by the Planning Commission, then there are some requirements in terms of conditions for overhead power lines.
thank you.
There's a couple of typos, I think, further on that were corrected.
Through you, Mr Mayor, is Councillor Cameron moving? Otherwise, I'm happy to move.
Councillor Jones, thank you. Have a seconder? Councillor Reid, thank you. Okay, discussion? Speaks for the motion.
Through you, Mr Mayor. I think it's safe to say council's position is on undergrounding is unchanged. We've had representation from our community on this issue, and I think the inquiry to date has not been broad enough to look at all the benefits that this could bring, and also to address a lot of the land use conflict that was raised during the initial community submissions that we received. The very fact that construction facilities are being organised for 200 workers in Tumbarumba, yet when it comes to Yass Valley, they're relying on our existing rental market is completely unacceptable. And so we're in the middle of an affordable housing crisis across the state. The fact that this is not addressed, I think it's our duty to raise that. So I commend the submission in that it addresses this. It's asking for them to come up with an option. I would hope that that's a quality option, and I would press so far as that it should be a legacy project, but we'll see what comes out in the wash as to what the human components intend to do.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Councillor Potter?
Through you, Mr Mayor, I'd just like to voice that while I respect a lot of the locals and the community input that we've had on this, I do want to express that I do have great concerns with the undergrounding, mainly around the costs and how much that's going to drive up power for families who are already really struggling to put food on the table, and obviously costs are rising. So I do have quite a lot of concerns mainly around that, because I have heard that it will triple the cost, and obviously all of that cost will be passed on to the consumers. So I just wanted to give a voice to that is something that feels quite heavy in supporting this for me.
Thank you, Councillor Potter. Councillor Cameron?
Yeah, look, I've suggested amendment to the recommendation. It's down the bottom there. It's a new 1.2. It's number 3. It would be number 3, and it reads as that council meet with neighbouring councils, and I've got in mind there particularly Upper Lachlan and Snowy Valley, to investigate forming a coalition to continue to fight for undergrounding Humelink. So that's the amendment that I'm moving. It's just the new 3. I'm looking for a seconder.
So there's 3, Mr Mayor. There's 2 options. One, if the mover and the seconder are happy for that to be incorporated, you can directly do that,
All right.
or you can continue as seeking a seconder for an amendment.
Councillor Jones?
Through you, Mr Mayor. Since the proposal is to investigate forming a coalition, I'm happy to have that kind of conversation.
Councillor Reid?
So that can then be just simply incorporated into the motion by Councillor Jones and Councillor Reid.
Okay, can I make a quick comment on that? Just a comment. I think I actually bumped into a local resident this morning at Aldi where I like to shop. And she was meeting with another person in the Hume Link Alliance with the independent senator for Canberra tomorrow. And so I think the battle for undergrounding hasn't finished. I think there's going to be still a lot more action, and I think we need to sort of at least be seen to be helpful to our neighbouring councils who perhaps are more affected than we are. But I do think we are affected, and I think that would be a good thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Cameron. Any further speakers? For or against? Prepared to vote? Put the motion, all those in favour? Those against? The motion carried. 6.3, the DA concerning the change in fence design at 16 Rose Street, Murray Bay.
Through Mr. Mayor.
Councillor
An
Jones.
alternate motion. That the application to modify development consent DA 165253B, the construction of a 1500mm high timber fence with white square steel posts be refused, as the fence does not contribute to the streetscape and residential amenity of the locality. If I can bring up.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Reid, thank you.
If I can bring up the first photo. Okay, so the developer, sorry, and then to the next. So this is what the initial proposal was. And then the next is what was delivered. So I think it's fair to say that the developer did not risk putting forward an inferior design as part of its public selling point or the original approval to sell off the plan. And so therefore I believe that the original design should stand. It doesn't seem that these are rare or unobtainable materials. It's simply a change of option from the developer. And I know if that's what I had been purchasing off the plan, I certainly want it delivered as is. And I know that this is for a multi-dwelling complex. This is not a standalone. A lot of people in that complex are relying on the aspect of the front area to reflect what they bought into.
Thank you, councillor Jones. Councillor Turner.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, just a question through you to the Director of Planning. Just to comment on the assertion made by the proponent that the plans that they were given didn't have a drawing of the fence.
Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Not clear as to what the fence should look like. He built what he thought was.
I believe there is reference in a landscape plan. I just can't read it, the writing's very small. But I think our understanding was that it would be the stone pillars with the timber fence. I do note in the modification explanation that was submitted with the modification request that they don't refer to that as being an issue in terms of what was approved and the detail. They believe, to them to say what they believe, but they do consider that the modifying the consent for the metal fence post is of a minor significance. Obviously, with details, information in the report.
Thank you. Councillor Reid.
Yes, I'd like to speak in support of the motion, and I'd like to thank Councillor Jones for putting the motion. I have issue with this in two respects. The first one being the developer built the fence and then comes along and asks for a DA to cover the issue. The developer should have known that if that was the case, that they should have applied for a DA before putting the fence up. So I find that's it's very difficult from a council's position to say, yeah, well, that's okay, because we're setting a precedent in some respects. People could basically go and do what they want and then come along to council afterwards and say, I now want you to agree to this. The fence itself is, well, I know it's a personal opinion, and we shouldn't let that get to it, but it really is nice, so it doesn't look in any way nice. It doesn't have any value in terms of privacy because you can see through the fence itself, and from a security point of view, there's no reason for the fence because it's open. There's an open driveway, and I know those are not really conditions that should be taken to. I just think that, and I also have an issue that Councillor Jones pointed out. The design that was presented to people who bought off the plan. So they were expecting that kind of fence to be built and for the buildings to look. I accept that developers do run into issues where they may find inflation gives them a problem in terms of pricing. And there may be shortage of materials, which means they need to swap it. But I really don't think we should just accept it as it is. I think we need to go ask the developer to have a little look at it and see whether or not they could at least modify that fence to look at least like the original was meant to be. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Root. Further discussion? Prepared to vote? Motion, all those in favour? Those against? Declare the motion carried. 6.4, PA 22074, landscaping materials suppliers business, Mulligan Flat Road Sub. There's a recommendation.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Jones, do we have a second? Councillor Reid. Any discussion?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, firstly, I want to acknowledge the length of time that it's taken for council and the proponent to work through both sides of this development application, which is unfortunate. We're talking somebody's business and we're also talking about a community's well-being. If there is activity that's not subject to a development application and a use that's allowed. From discussions with the Department of Planning here at Yass Valley Council, it seems that multiple communications have been explained to the proponent that retail sales is the allowable use of a landscape business. Yet this has not been presented as the way for us to improve it. So I think the cleanest possible way that we can do this is to reject the application, invite them to resubmit on the basis of some retail component, which I imagine, and I'll get Director Rogers to confirm, that if they put in such an application, they might be subject to the kind of conditions that would apply for a retail outlet in terms of movement of traffic, times of business, all the things that we would normally be able to point to if there was a compliance issue around late night traffic issues, etc.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you for the question. The issue at hand around the definition and the characterisation of the development as a landscaping materials supplies business is the fact that it's within a group of definitions that is a retail premises, and as such, the applicant has been able to demonstrate retailing for the site, and that's been confirmed in the legal advice the council has received. So, if a new development application was to be received that detailed retailing from the site, then that they can lodge the development application, but in terms of the assessment, I can't forecast the outcome. And it is noted in the council report that there, regardless of the characterisation of the use, there is still deficiencies in terms of information around impacts.
Councillor Reid.
Yes, I support everything that Councillor Jones has said. It appears to me from what we're saying here that we should ask the the proponent to put in two separate development applications, one for a truck depot and one for the landscaping business. Sorry, more of a question than anything. Is that correct?
Through you, Mr Mayor, I think that's a matter for the applicant. What we're saying in the report is that the truck depot is considered to be permissible, but the landscaping material supplies is considered to be prohibited. How they will, if they were to lodge another development application, that is really a matter for them.
I also got from the discussion there with some of the presentations of some of the people that the people around them are still open to this continuing, provided that the two aspects, the noise and the dust, are in some way abated or controlled. So I feel that we should support this as it is now, and then give that feedback back to the owner of the business.
Can I just comment? Through you, Mr Mayor, just in response to what you've just said, Councillor Reid, I think probably the two main issues that the applicant really needs to address is noise. The noise assessment considers part of the impact of the development, but doesn't consider the issue that was raised in the submission around the dumping of the rocks and the noise that occurs then. And I think the second issue will be traffic. But I can't make that can't be made, that decision around what additional reports are required until they lodge a further development application.
Thank you.
Councillor Jones.
Councillor Reid has just reminded me to just clarify the claim of existing use. It's my understanding the LEP prior to our newly adopted one in 2013 would have covered this, and that wasn't under the Shire prior to that. They said their business started in 2012. I know we would have had our draft LEP functioning at that point. So their claim to an existing use, I just wanted to get your response.
Through you, Mr Mayor, the issue the council's being asked to consider is the actual development application. I think in terms of the existing use rights, this has only been raised with council staff recently, and I think it's been probably in the last 24 hours. Existing use rights is an entirely different matter to the lodgement of the development application. If they feel that they have existing use rights, then they need to provide the evidence of such for us to have a look at.
Okay, everyone happy? To debate? Motion, all those in favour? Those against? The motion carries. Six five, DA 210165, boarding house, 141 Main Street. Thank you, councillor Turner. Have a seconder? Discussion?
I'd just like to question. Mr. McGrath suggested that we defer this for a month to allow all councillors to have a look at his submission. Is that fair and reasonable? Or can we, could we vote on this now and say this is where we feel subject to feedback?
Through you, Mr Mayor, I think that's a decision for council about whether or not that's reasonable. However, the report goes onto the website like last Friday. I think we received the additional information from Mr McGrath about 2:10 today. The report speaks for itself. There are several deficiencies within the application that's been submitted, including that it doesn't really meet the requirements under the regulation in terms of an application and what needs to be submitted. And I'll just put it to the applicant has had ample opportunity over a number of occasions to provide the information that was required.
Councillor Paul.
Just through you, Mr Mayor, while I do support the recommendation here, I just wanted to say how much I support affordable housing, and I do hope we can get a lot more stuff happening in the valley, particularly for sort of cheaper rental accommodation and stuff. So I'm hoping a lot more of this sort of stuff comes through, obviously in correct locations and all the rest of it. But it would be great to have some more affordable housing come online, even though I do agree with the recommendation from the staff. And I appreciate the amount of work that's gone into this as well, because this is such a huge thing with a lot of, community interest. So
Yes, we absolutely need more affordable accommodation. There's no doubt about that. Councillor Turner.
Closing debate. Firstly, congratulations to the planning department on this. This has been keeping sore for a long time. And I absolutely detest people who complain about council staff in such a manner. Good. Enormously in this, and it's totally wrong for someone to use the public forum to denigrate one of our staff members. It's wrong in so many factions. But like this application, it's wrong on so many levels, and I'm delighted to be able to move the motion that basically sees that it doesn't go ahead because there is nothing in it that is right. If it was in Queanbeyan, I can understand where there's a public transport exercise in there. There is no public transport in Yass. It is wrong, wrong, wrong. I urge you to vote no.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. I'll put the motion in. All those in favour? Those against? Declare the motion carried. Unanimous. We go on to 6.6, the interim heritage order, Jasper Fisherman Shack, Swinging Bridge. There's a recommendation again. Councillor Potter. Councillor Burgess, thank you. Discussion? We're going.
Heritage takes lots of different forms. And the fact that these items are made with some corrugated iron, a little bit like the castle, doesn't make it any less important. And the stories that go along with some of these shacks is incredible. Let me quote from Belinda Robinson from the Robinson family cabin, which has been in their family for decades. Our grandfather, Douglas Main, received authorisation to build on the land by Wee Jasper Station Manager in 1958. The lease has been officially passed down over the years with the approval of the Department of Lands. Although the shack has undergone minor modifications, such as the addition of a small back room and kitchen, it remains remarkably similar to the original form. These enhancements have allowed our many extended families to comfortably stay for extended periods of Christmas, Easter, and various long weekends throughout the year. Throughout the decades, our shacks has served as a constant presence in our lives, acting as a gathering place for our extended family. It holds great sentimental value as the ashes of our father, uncle, aunt, and cousin have been scattered here. The front door serves as a unique record of our family's growth, displaying the height measurements of each sibling and cousin from childhood to adulthood. These shacks hold a lot of stories of some incredible people, including Bev Fryer's first catch of a fish in 1955. These are irreplaceable memories, and rules change. Things need to be tightened up as far as things like how we deal with the effluent. But these shacks, I was fascinated with them when I first moved to Wee Jasper. I went up to Wee Jasper 6 months pregnant, and that was an experience on the road in itself. And I looked at these shacks, and I was very curious about their history. And it wasn't until I went there in I think a January month where people were actually there that I could see how they were being used, and kids playing and all over the river. And at that time, the swinging bridge was still there. I think we have an obligation to look at the value and the merit of the heritage, and I commend the recommendation to do so.
Thank you, Councillor Garnes. Any further discussion? Put the motion in. All those in favour? Those against? Declare motion carried. 6.7, Yass water treatment plant upgrade. Again, it's a recommendation. Councillor Reid, Councillor Potter. Any discussion? Any comments?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I note that as the steps progress forward, we have a workshop coming up in which councillors will be a part of. So my question to the Director of Infrastructure and Assets, Mr. Cook, I'd like to seek clarification on what elements we will be covering in terms of whether or not the reverse osmosis is still a part of option 3 or any of the options going forward. And secondly, I'd like to ask how we will be addressing one of the key issues that we faced during the October 22 flood events, where even after stage 1 upgrade works, and I'm just quoting from Council Report, October 22, even after stage 1 upgrade works, risk of failure to comply with drinking water guidelines and a potential boil water alert during these extreme flooding events remains. And this is due to the deterioration of the raw water quality evidence during the August and October 22 floods. So what happened during those events is we were incapable of treating the incoming water, and our treated water supply was also depleted to critical levels during the periods where the water could not be treated. So I just want to ascertain whether we'll be addressing those high flow, low water quality events in any of these options. Thank you.
Yep, through you, Mr. Mayor. All options are still on the table. So as you mentioned, we do have a workshop with councillors coming up on the 17th of October where we will go through the process of the development of the business case to date. By that date, we should have a preferred option that will, well, multiple preferred options that we'll come to council with. Reverse osmosis is currently still in option 3. We as a council need to decide whether or not that is something that we can fund. It's currently not currently able to be funded with the grant funding that we have available at the moment. The change of options, whether it be an addition to option 2 or a reduction of option 3, is that it will be able to treat the high turbidity events, so your high flood events. We're going to look at having the two treatment trains in place so that will be able to manage those high turbidity events.
And secondly, as far as the upgrade of the network of pipes as well, it's my understanding that we're already in full step in public works in terms of investigations, but we've received some outside comments that negate that. I just wanted to put on record where things are up to.
Through Mr. Mayor, yes, so part of the funding that we do have, we've allocated a portion of that funding to upgrade and treat the reticulation system that we have in place to improve the water that is coming through the pipes rather than what's coming from the treatment plant itself. Public Works have definitely been engaged and they're working on a priority and a costings works program for us that we'll look to start implementing towards the end of this year or early next year.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, to the Director of Infrastructure and Assets, just to do with the customer survey, I know there's about nearly 3,500 distributed and 490 odd return, percentage of 14.5%. From a statistical point of view, is that a big enough sample for the results of those surveys to have some efficacy for your business case?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, we feel that there is enough information in it. We've gained a lot of valuable data from the 491 odd surveys that were returned to us. We are definitely taking that into consideration as part of the development of the business case, and DPE we're still going through and finalising those results and how they will feed into the business case.
Thank you.
Further questions? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Declare the motion. 6.8, Yass Village Treatment Plan, Augmentation Project, Concept Design. I'd like to move the recommendation. Councillor Turner, Councillor Potter. Any discussion? Comments? Any arguments? I'll put the motion, all those in favour? Those against, declare the motion carried. 6.9, read votes, carry forward. This is a recommendation. Councillor Cameron, Councillor Abbey. Any questions?
I was going to ask a question, sorry.
Okay, well, you can still ask a question.
Sorry, I'm just asking a question. Revotes are usually done at the meeting after the end of the financial year, because it gives legal standing to works that are ongoing from the revotes. So the fact that we've done this in September and not July, does that have any legal implications at all through you?
Through you, Mr Mayor, I don't believe so.
Yeah, I know, that was a mistake. Can I won't move the motion, sorry.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. That's Councillor Turner, moved Turner, seconded. Ready to vote? All those in favour? Those against, declare the motion carried. 6.10, the investment report, July 2023. There's a recommendation. Noted. Councillor Reid, Councillor Turner. Any discussion? Put the motion, all those in favour? Those against, declare the motion carried. Investment report, August 2023. Councillor Turner, Councillor Reid, thank you. Questions, comments? Put the motion, all those in favour? Those against, declare the motion carried. 6.12, financial assistance request. Councillor Pothon, moved. Councillor Reid, seconded. Any questions, any comments?
Through you, Mr Mayor, just a quick comment that it's really exciting to see some of this school stuff supported, and I think what these guys are doing are great, and I hope these sorts of funds can help continue to support these guys to get places like Sydney. It is pretty tough for people to fundraise on their own, particularly if they've got more than 2 or 3 kids. So I highly commend this recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Pothon. Any further comments? Not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against, declare the motion carried. 6.13, grants update. Recommendation, Councillor Pothon, seconded Councillor Jones. Any questions, any comments?
I just want to congratulate our staff on the variety of projects that have been supported and the amount of work involved in getting the message out and processing and helping groups that are very small committees, trying to meet the standards of grant applications, and I'm sure a lot of help was given along the way, and I congratulate our team for their assistance.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Any further comments? Councillor Pothon.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I'd just like to add, I do agree with what Councillor Jones said. I'd just like to add, though, how great it is to see so many things happening in so many different places as well, in all the surrounding areas. It's great to see such a mix that covers such a big area. So, yeah, well done to the staff.
Thank you.
Through you, Mr Mayor, just make the comment that I think it's a very valuable support for a community exercise. I also think that it's really interesting that we can access grant funding when we really want to. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Cameron. I'll put the motion then, all those in favour? Against, declare the motion carried. 6:14, disclosures by designated persons. Recommendation is that the report be noted. Councillor Abbey, councillor Turner. Any comments?
I just wondered if we had fixed up the one that was picked up the other day about the chief financial officer said it was a typo. Can we make sure that that's fixed? Thank you very much.
Okay, I'll put the motion, all those in favour? Those against, declare the motion carried. 6:15 and 6:16.
16 go. Confidential.
Councillor Turner, second by councillor Abbey. Motion, all those in favour? Those against, declare the motion carried. 8, notice of motion nil. 8, questions with notice. 8.1. Committee, councillor Cameron.
Yeah, it's a question that I've put on notice, and I just thought it's. I just find it very interesting that this committee hasn't met in the last 10 months, and it seems to me as though I may be wrong in saying that it's a bit on the back burner at the moment, and I think it should be fast forwarded rather than put on the back burner. I don't think there've been a lot of committee meetings as such. I think the figure that I have is about 2 in 2 years, and I think I'm a little bit concerned about that. Can I ask a couple of questions to the Director of Planning? I've got 3 questions. Will the draft go back to the committee before it goes to council? Because apparently we're working with the consultants at the moment with a draft. So that's the first question. Second question, can the Sustainability Advisory Committee look at it before it goes to council? And will it eventually go on public exhibition? Thank you.
Mr Mayor, 3 yeses.
Very good.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you very much.
Very well, councillor Cameron.
I think through you, Mr Mayor, I think I need to comment about the reference to it being on the back burner. That's not correct, and I actually take offence at that. We have been working with the consultant trying to resolve the problems, and I have previously told you in multiple council meetings what the issue was in terms of the staffing of the strategic planning team and the consultant's issues with staffing as well.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I apologise if there's any offence. It wasn't meant. It's just the appearance that things aren't happening. And I would think that this is a very important committee, and it's a very important thing that we're looking at, Open Space Committee, and it has been referred as one of the things that is holding up getting a DCP in place as well.
That doesn't have anything to do with the DCP.
All right.
The issue is that we have provided reports on the progress or the lack of progress with this project on numerous occasions. It's not been hidden. We've been open about it.
The tanks run dry. You can't get water out of a dry tank.
Through you, Mr Mayor, thank you for your wisdom on this point. I'm just making the point that from a community perspective, this isn't happening, and there may be very good reasons why it's not happening, and it may have been. I didn't suggest it was hidden. I suggested it's not happening.
Through you, Mr Mayor, it is happening. Like with myself, the CEO and the acting strategic planner have spent considerable amount of time on the draft and discussing it with the consultant. But, you know, staffing issues are staffing issues, whether they're for council or they're for the consultant. And if you think that I haven't been trying to progress it, well, that's not true. And the Open Space Committee were advised in an email on the 14th of July this year that there were issues, and that if they had an issue with anything I had said in the email, they were to contact me. And one member of the committee contacted me.
The next question is, I notice is in connection with the roof repairs, to the Soldiers Memorial Hall, there is a response. Comments? If not, we'll go on to 8.3. And question with notice, environmental upgrade financing. And there is a response. Comments? Queries? Thank you, Councillor Campbell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to make a couple of comments. I'd just would like to speak on my question on notice about the environmental upgrade financing. Look, I'd just like to say that it's very disappointing that Yass Valley Council has lost 2 years by not implementing the program that was suggested in September 2021. And it was suggested on a trial basis for 2 years, which would have meant that that trial would have been reporting back about now or next month about how it had gone. But it's not too late. And the good news is that this is a successful program that has been implemented across Australia. We now have 47 councils operating this scheme in Victoria, 11 in South Australia, 14 in New South Wales, including Queanbeyan and Snowy Valley. And I think talking to some people in Queanbeyan, they're getting quite excited about the idea. I also would like to mention that the local federal member has highlighted success stories in our region with businesses grabbing this opportunity. So she's been keen about it, and as we know, she was a former mayor of Bega. I think this is a scheme that's a win-win situation for business and the environment. Both win, and ultimately the community is better off with this scheme in place. Second, the other point that I'd like to mention is that there's enthusiasm for the program in our local Yass Business Chamber by some of the leadership of that group. So it's council's role, in my view, to promote positive community initiatives. And I think these positive community initiatives should be followed up whenever we can. Part of the response indicates some problems with the implementation of it. But I think we would have been in a much better place to say that if we had started the trial, even if the trial didn't go for 2 years, if it went for 6 months, a year, we would have been in a much better situation to establish what the problems were. But, you know, I think we are in a great position to move forward. We now have a large number of councils that have implemented the scheme. They are a resource that we could access to basically find out, you know, what problems may or may not occur. There's an implicit funding support that can be passed on to businesses as well for the administrative costs of delivering the program. And if the software that we have isn't up to scratch, well, it's obvious that maybe we might need to look at the software in a bit more depth to see if it can handle this type of situation. And I do note that North Sydney, for example, which I know is a bigger council, does have Magic and does have the scheme. So I think we can do things. So I think this would have been a great scheme to implement. It would have given businesses access to low-cost finance to implement environmental improvements in their business. And from talking to a couple of people in the business chamber, they would be very happy to have a really good look at this proposal. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Through you, Mr Mayor, my understanding is that North Sydney don't have the enterprise model of Magic. They only have a document management system. So the problem with even having a trial, if it can't work with our system, we can't even run the trial. So that is a problem that we've got, and that's a fundamental problem. And the second part is that, as pointed out in the report there, is that we have a small rates team, and that means additional workload for that team to manage this process that hasn't been budgeted for.
Councillor Jones.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe I can propose a motion on this
Yes.
with question of notice. We already have a rates team which is facing the challenge of reissuing the recent rates release. We have a small team. In light of the challenges that this program presents, and I want to let you know that I was one of the moving. Seconded this motion when it originally came before council. We were given a very slick presentation that it would be almost automatic and nothing for our staff to do. But like Mary Poppins says, the cover is not the book. Once you open it up and take a look. So I would propose that council removes the environmental upgrade financing scheme option for the remainder of the financial year, and a report be provided to the May 2024 council meeting on its future application. I think there's a lot of merit in the program, but if we don't have the current capacity to deliver or even integrate it with our system, I think we have to be clear in our communication with the public and with the business community on what we can do. It's not.
Do we have a second to that motion?
Thank you.
Sorry?
Do we have a second for that motion? So, council removes the environmental upgrade financing scheme option for the remainder of the financial year, and a report be provided to the May 2024 council meeting on its future application.
Mr. Mayor,
You
question.
have a second first? Okay.
Did you say financial year? I just said the financial year.
So if we get a report by May 2024, then we can decide whether that's going to be going forward into, so the 23-24 financial years will end in June.
Yeah, June.
Yeah, so if we get a report by May, we'll.
Through Mr. Mayor, if we can't integrate it with our enterprise system, we can't do it. So the second part of the motion there doesn't mean anything.
If it's not possible, I think we
Well, that's what the Director of Corporate Services has been doing. It hasn't been sitting on her hands. It's been trying to negotiate with our provider to be able to support this system, at least through a trial, and we haven't been able to do it.
Well, I think that tightens up my motion, that we remove the environmental upgrade financing system option, full stop. Yeah. If we need clarification, due to the challenges of implementation, so people understand when they look at that motion, why on earth we pull it.
Well, the challenges are in the report, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Councillor Cameron.
Point of order, this is effectively a rescission motion. Are we able to do that without notification?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't believe you need to rescind the motion. If you have a motion on the books and you make another motion, the latest motion takes precedent. Don't need to rescind it.
There is no point.
Oh, through Mr. Mayor, isn't this a question, not a motion that we were starting with? Isn't this just a question with notice?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think Councillor Jones pointed out that as a matter on the agenda, you can make a motion on the matter on the agenda.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Councillor Cameron. Now, moving on to 8.4, question with notice, dirty water. What's this about dirty water? Perfectly clear.
Didn't come from the chair.
Yeah, okay, there is a response here. Any comments?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I just want to thank the team for that response, because that's really good information that a lot of people didn't understand, myself included. that's answered a lot of questions for a lot of people, and I do appreciate being able to ask questions like this and get such a detailed answer. I just wanted to question the last part of my question though, which I don't feel was quite answered, is what can we do as a council to help this move forward? Now, I understand we've already voted on the water treatment plant. We've talked about that already tonight. I just feel quite passionate about this because this is something we all kind of talked about when we were elected to sit in these chairs, and we all sort of promised the community that we would help try and, you know, change things like this and get this water pushing forward. And I'd like to know, as a new member of council, if there's something else we can do to put a bit of pressure on the government, or is there something else that we could actually be doing so that we were doing something?
Mr. Mayor, the last paragraph addresses that issue. The solution is get on with the job, which is we use the money that we've got for improving the network and enabling us to clean those pipes so we get rid of the scum that's building up.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think I meant more of like there's lots of election promises that are floating around. Is there something that we can do?
This funding is from that election promise.
Yeah, oh, yeah, thank you. Well, that was separate.
Okay, moving on. 9.1, the minutes of the CRJA Audit Risk and Improvement Committee. There's a report and a recommendation. Be noted. Someone like to move? Councillor Reid and Councillor Potter. Thank you. Motion, all those in favour? Those against? Declare the motion carried. Minutes of the Economic Development Advisory Committee held on the 29th of August.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Reid, thank you.
And through you, Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to thank the committee for their work on putting together this list. We've already had a working committee on the affordable housing, and when the committee meets, we might be looking to form another working group to work on some of these items to see what further information we can bring forward to council. If you have a priority of what projects that council from that list would like us to push forward on, I would highly recommend a discussion at the next possible working group where we can put this on, so you can advise the Economic Development Committee what you would like to see us working on next.
Councillor Jones. Further comments? Any discussion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Declare the motion carried. Minutes of the Youth Council meeting held on the 11th of September. There's a recommendation. Moving, Councillor Bottom. Do we have a second? Councillor Abbey. Thank you. Any discussion? Comments? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Again, declare the motion carried. Meeting out to the Yass Soldiers Memorial Hall Committee.
So
Moved Councillor Turner. Seconded Councillor Potter. Put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Declare the motion carried. Minutes of the Vango Wind Farm. Councillor Abbey.
Hang on a second.
Hang on a sec.
Councillor Abbey. Councillor Potter. Any discussion? Put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Declare the motion carried.
Just get, yes.
So keep going, empty. Okay, someone like to move, we go into confidential. With Councillor Turner, seconded Councillor Abbey. Motion, all those in favour? Declare the motion carried.